Let's talk about scientific posters. So our objectives are to create a poster for a specific purpose and then to critique scientific posters and offer some constructive feedback. So what is a scientific poster? It is a visual representation of a scientific story. Usually it explains a series of experiments that were done to answer a specific research question, but it can also be used to explain a topic or some new findings in a specific medical area. And so it doesn't have to just be about experiments that you performed, but generally that's what it's used for. They're mainly used at conferences. So there'll be large scientific meetings. This is pre-COVID, that you would print these posters out and you would hang them up on a board and you would stand in front of your poster and people would walk around and read it and ask you questions about your science and your project and what you've been working on. In person, they're generally printed out 48 inches by 36 inches, and it's used to summarize information that is visually appealing. So we're going to have some text, some graphs, some pictures. You want it to have some color, but you don't want it to be overwhelmingly colorful or busy. The goal is that it's easy to understand and it's visually appealing. This is an advertisement for your work. You want someone to catch a glimpse of it and want to walk over and understand more about your science story. So it has several sections that are familiar to you, that are similar to what we talked about for lab reports. It's got an introduction that should lay out why your audience should care about your poster, why this topic is important, and then give some of the main details that someone should know about the beginning of your project. You then want to have like an objective section that covers the purpose of the research and the hypothesis. So what did you want to do? What did you expect to find? You then should have a method section, and here is where you want to start to incorporate some visuals. You can also incorporate a visual for the purpose or hypothesis if you expect, arrow, up arrow, water will lead to up arrow, plant growth, some sort of visual representation of your hypothesis. But the methods, you also want to have some pictures. So say you were taking samples at a certain lake, you want to have a picture of that lake. Or you were testing 3 different masks for their effectiveness, you want to have some pictures of your masks, right? Some visuals here to give people an idea of what you were doing. Then you'll have your results section, and this is where you really just want to have graphs and tables with the captions. You don't want to have a ton of text for your results. Again, you want someone to catch their eye and for it to be an aesthetically appealing poster. And then you end with a conclusion section saying what you found out, what you will do next, and why people should care. Again, why is this important? And then at the very bottom, you can have acknowledgments and references. Do's and don'ts. Important information needs to be readable from 10 feet away. So you got to make the font big, especially for headings and for the title. The title should be short, but it should draw interest. You don't want to get it worded down with a giant title, but you do want to have some keywords, some buzzwords. This is also a time to be punny. If you are a punny person, this would be the moment for you to shine. Overall word count should be definitely less than 800 words, sometimes even less than 300 words. Again, you're mainly focused on the visuals. The text needs to just be clear and to the point. Whenever possible, you want to use bullets, numbers, headers, things that make it easy for your audience to read it very quickly. You want to use graphics and color effectively, so you want to have some color, but you don't want to have like a rainbow explosion, right? You want it to be soothing and again, visually appealing. Don't do all the colors, but do some colors and keep that consistent. Keep the fonts consistent. Have a clean layout with some white space, but not a ton of white space. The bottom, put an acknowledgement. Always make sure your name is on it somewhere. I didn't feel like I had to say this, but then I thought, you know what? I've seen a poster or two where the person's name is nowhere to be found. If you're presenting this outside of UNCP, say you are going to a scientific conference, you want to have your institution affiliation. You want to say you're a student at UNCP, for example. Things to think about, questions to consider. What is the most important, interesting, astounding finding from my research project? How can I visually share my research with the conference attendees? What kind of charts, graphs, photos, images are going to be best here? And then what kind of information can I convey during my talk that will complement my poster? So during a poster session, you'll show the poster visual, and then you'll talk through it. So you'll explain This is the introduction. This is why this work is important. Here's some background information you should know. Here's my objective and hypothesis. Here's my methods. Look at these results. Look at this result and that result and this result. Let me explain these results to you. And then let me sum it all up in a conclusion and tell you what I would do next, right? So there's a speech, kind of like an elevator pitch type of talk that will go along with your poster, and that's also important. A nicely designed poster. You've got an effective title. It's big. You're going to get the audience attention and communicate your message quickly and succinctly. You've got visuals, okay? You want people to be able to see things. There's some white space, but not too much white space. Bad poster, right? You don't want to have like little teeny crammed up sections of text. You don't want to have the unofficial logos of institutions. Rarely do you need abstracts. Look at all this text. It's just intimidating, boring, gray, smudge. No one is reading this. Too small, too much. These figures are way too small, too hard to read. This is nitpicky, but this caption is not aligned. You want your captions to be aligned. Way too much text, way too much text. And then this is crammed down at the bottom. This is like someone vomited science on a poster. Don't be that person. Don't vomit science. Instead, take your time, plan out your sections, and make sure you have an appropriate visual for your scientific story.